Welcome to the Maneuver Meta, where I, and sometimes Paul, discuss the evolving meta in Flames of War version 4 Late War. I'm Lexi, and I've been playing Flames of War on and off for around 11 years. While I've played on and off, I've continually collected a large German, American, and Soviet armies. At the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, I dragged my roommate Paul kicking and screaming into the Flames of War community. So let's declare our stance to maneuver and ready our reserves. Hey everybody, Editing Lexi here. Once again, I had some audio issues. I'm coming closer. I thought I left a printer on last time, but I had all the printers off and the audio got a little better. So I'm going to be doing some test recordings this week, just to try and turn something off, see what happens, turn something off, see what happens. So again, my apologies for the background noise. Thank you for tuning in though. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second video episode of the Maneuver Meta here. Danny is commuting electronically today to be able to make it into the podcast. And we're trying this out, and I've been enjoying it so far. So, welcome back, Danny. We're episode 8, part 2 of Is British Artillery Bad? Prior episode, for a very quick recap, we went through the Allied artillery options between the British, the Americans, and the Soviets, and the tier list that we came up with in terms of who was the best artillery was Americans, and then Soviets and Brits were kind of punching each other in the face for last place, trying to figure out who actually was worse, because they're both bad but in different ways. And the Soviets have this...
They're much worse, but yeah.
And the Soviets have the leg up in terms of options.
But we talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about all of that, so we're going to be... the only thing that we're going to add to this episode in terms of new content for the British is Bulge British has been out and revealed. So we'll be able to go through some of those. But what I will do first, though, to start us off, is we're going to...
the artillery in Bulge British is good, though, so we can talk about that. That'll add some nuance to the topic.
Is British artillery really truly bad anymore? So we'll stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah.
But so, I'm going to be using, for all of my examples that are going to be showing up on screen here, I'm going to be using the Bulge British book and the Forces website to be able to showcase all the information. There are 4 German books currently. D-Day German, D-Day Waffen, Bulge.
I think you said Bulge
German.
British. You meant to say Bulge.
Oh yeah, Bulge German. So D-Day German, D-Day Waffen, Bagration German for Eastern Front, and then Bulge German. So there's 4 German books available right now. That makes list creation kind of wonky, but that's a topic for another time. But for pretty much all intents and purposes, Bulge German has every single artillery option in it from the prior books, with additional other ones. So I will flip over to that right now. If I can figure out where my... Shoot, Miku, you're standing right in front of it. There we go. Okay, so the support diagram, jumping right into it with Germans. For our traditional towed howitzers, we have essentially 2 variants of the 10.5 artillery battery here. That is a pretty standardized 72-inch range, anti-tank 3, firepower 3+, can fire smoke bombardment, 4+ save. It's a big gun. It's a howitzer. It's pretty standard. There's no real special rules with it. And then the only differences that Bulge German has added to it is the addition of worsened soft stats through the Volks 10.5 battery, which allows you to take up to 6 guns for 11 points, which isn't really that bad. But the problem with that is they are reluctant. So they're unpinning on a 5.
Their skill rating.
Their skill rating is trained.
Okay, so 4+.
So they're all right on the range in, not that good, but not that bad. But the thing that really hinders the Volk's artillery batteries is the fact that they have that 5+ reluctant. And so one of the things that you're able to do with these to kind of change it around to get into some of the really wonky stuff right off the bat, going through the bulged German command cards, is you have the capability for some of the Volk's cards, or for some of the Volk's batteries. You're able to change their guns. You can give them 7.5 anti-tank guns or the long barrel 88s. And essentially what it does, I'm trying to find it here. Here we go. We'll use the Volk's 88 as an example. It increases the cost of the battery because you now have a direct fire, basically a direct fire AT gun that you're able to use. And then it can fire essentially as a slightly stronger mortar battery. It's anti-tank 2, firepower 4+ with an 88-inch range. And so this kind of counteracts the downside of the reluctance, or the reluctant rating, because you're able to take advantage of an actual good direct fire. Not like just the little, because I think it's 18.9 for the direct fire on the 10.5.
Yeah, the 105s are usually 18.9.
Yeah, so 18.9 firepower 2+. So if you give it the Volk's 88 to give it the long 88, that's anti-tank 17 firepower 3+ with a 48-inch range. So that's one of the awkward things where it kind of, yeah, it makes it so that it's artillery, and then if it's pinned, you can still direct fire. That doesn't remove your ranged in marker. You can direct fire without losing it, and so you're able to just. The only thing,
though, is that you obviously can't direct fire and shoot artillery in the same turn. So that's the tricky thing with units that have a dual purpose like that.
Yes.
I think we were talking about that with the 25-pounders in the first part of this.
Yeah, kind of in mid-war. That you run into that mid-war because there's actual targets that they can be used against in mid-war feasibly well.
It's just that it can't do both things at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And so those are really the options. The other one is you swap them out for the 7.5 Pak 40s. I think that's what they are. They're the 7.5 centimeter anti-tank guns. So it enables them to basically fire like a mortar in a bombardment. But the other thing that this enables you to do in a weird roundabout way is it allows you to take a battery of 6 guns. So you can put 6 7.5 guns in a platoon. That is kind of disgusting in and among itself. And if I recall, the 7.5 version that is actually something that we would have to figure out, because it doesn't say that it loses the large gun rule. Because the regular tank hunter ones, you can ambush them within 4 inches. Because they're the small gun. But it doesn't say it, so that will be way too intricate. Our other non-propelled version of artillery is the Nebelwerfer batteries. So these are the German salvo weapons. It's the Nebelwerfers, the rocket launchers that they have. And
do they have smoke?
Yes. They are...
I think they're the only rockets in the game that have smoke. The Nebelwerfers. British ones don't have it.
Yeah,
US ones don't have it. Katyushas don't have it.
Yeah, you're right. I'm used to Yankee where everything has smoke.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Rockets having smoke, or just anything with a salvo having smoke, is kind of rare in Flames of War.
Huh. All right. Interesting. Never realized that. There's a lot of negatives to Nebelwerfers. These were the one of the favorite children of V3 that definitely got the nerf back to the face with V4. 3 of them is 9 points. They have no gun shield. Which if they're in a foxhole,
they'll start the game dug in.
Yeah, if they start the game dug in. But an instance where if they get assaulted and they fall back, they do have a 2-inch tactical, so you actually have a possibility to kind of shift them around if you need to.
Yeah, I don't think the lack of a gun shield really matters that much. But how many points were 3 of them again?
9.
9?
Anti-tank 2, but then here's the thing that really kind of makes it rough on them, is they're a firepower 4+. And so that 4+.
I mean, it is a salvo.
It is a salvo, but the thing that that I kept on running into is why would I... And this unit will come up here in a minute, and this is going to be a continual theme of the German artillery options, is why run these when I can just run 3 Wesps? You know, it's the exact same cost of Wesps. Salvos. So, touching on it really quick, I am not a fan of salvo weapons in either game. You are essentially only able to use them for the first 2 turns, and then danger close comes into play. And so especially if it's a salvo weapon that you're using as a cheap smoke bombardment, you're basically only able to use it once.
Yeah, well, it depends on when you use the smoke bombardment, because if you have other artillery...
Yeah, you could hold it and do like a turn 3 or turn 4, but I'm not a fan of salvo.
Yeah, I'm not either, really.
So it is nice being able to get the pie plate if you want the pie plate, but I'm personally not a fan of the Nebelwerfers. Command card wise, because I know there's stuff you can do with them. You can take 21 centimeter Nebelwerfers and 30 centimeter Nebelwerfers, and all that does is it improves their range and their firepower. So the 21 centimeter gives them another, looks like 12 inches, so it gives you the artillery 72, being able to cross table. Then it's anti-tank 2, and then the firepower bumps to 3. It's plus 3 points for 3 gun teams, so you go to 12 points for 3.
What else what other artillery do Germans have?
The 30 centimeter Nebelwerfer upgrades the regular Nebelwerfers, and that one is interesting because it is a firepower 2 plus salvo with a 56-inch range.
Yeah.
But it can only be fired 3 times the entire game.
Okay.
You keep track of let's see, a 30 centimeter Nebelwerfer battery can only fire 3 artillery bombardments per game. Place 3 tokens, remove 1 each time it fires a bombardment. And if I remember correctly from the errata, the smoke bombardment counts as one of those 3.
Okay.
So,
well, I mean, if you're planning on moving forward, which would kind of eliminate the salvo like we were talking about, then only being able to fire it 3 times isn't too bad.
Yeah, and it's plus 3 points, so it puts the unit of 3 to 12. And then honorable mention for non-self-propelled artillery is the 88 heavy AA platoon, because there's a command card that allows them to fire as mortars, and I think it's like 1 or 2 points or something. So if you have some extra points to throw around and you have a battery of 4 88s, here's 2 points, they can fire as a mortar. So throw a ranged-in marker somewhere. They're 88s, they're never going to move. You can literally just slap it on an objective, crossroads, or a cluster of buildings that might get occupied, and still put them on anti-tank duty, because their range, I think, is still like 80 inches or something when they're firing as the mortars. So that's still an awkward instance. Then for propelled artillery options. So if you couldn't tell from just going through the traditional howitzers, the Germans have a lot of damn options for their artillery. They tend to fit into the category of, with the exception of the Wesps, of being specialized towards one thing, which in terms of this as a game and a meta, I think is a good thing. You know, being able to pay points for something that does something well and other things not well makes it cost less than the things that are able to do everything well.
Yeah,
and so
that's
you're
kind
able
of
to
the
shift
issue
points.
with the British stuff, is that they have too many things going for them, and they're not necessarily things that matter. Mm-hmm. Like the being hit on a 4+ isn't as big of an advantage for a artillery piece as it is for almost everything else.
Yeah, because we were discussing that having it in your backline, you know, you could really care less, and especially with Flames of War not having a lot of like the laser rangefinder and guided missiles. So odds are if they're getting shot at, it's over 16 inches away or point blank.
Yeah.
But so for the semi-traditional towed guns, there are not towed, self-propelled for the
self-propelled artillery.
Yeah, what I've dubbed the big 3. You have your Grills, your Wesps, and your Hummels. So Wesps are your 10-5 on, I think it's a Panzer II. think it's a Panzer II chassis. They took a bunch of Panzer II chassis from early war and slapped a 10.5 gun on it. Or it might be 38Ts.
Yeah, one of those sounds right.
Yeah. So it is the exact same weapon profile as the 10.5 artillery battery, the 72-inch range, anti-tank 3, firepower 3 with a bombardment, smoke bombardment rule as well. And then the exact same direct fire 1-1, anti-tank 9, firepower 2. With this being on tracks, that direct fire can actually come into play because it can get into places where it potentially could be used. There's been plenty of times where I have just lowered the guns and direct shelled a building at 18 inches away. But the big thing with the Wesps is their points and their soft stats. And that is what makes them kind of ridiculous. It is 9 points for 3 of them. So the downside to that is if you lose one, you're immediately confirming your hits. So if one of them goes down, it is definitely felt. But they are a veteran skill rating. So they're ranging in on 3s in the open, 4s when it's touching terrain. They're careful on the 4+, which makes them kind of awkwardly good in those instances I was mentioning earlier where you can kind of maneuver them around because they do have a 3+ cross check. And they're fearless. So if they get bailed by something, there's a pretty good chance they're going to hop back in. Their armor is only 110, so it's effectively just you kind of get a save against 2 centimeters, but that's about it, and prevents small arms fire. So that it's not like a Katyusha or something where you can just get spammed with MG shots and have it get taken out. So that's the Wesp. The Waffen version in the D-Day Waffen book is all of these stats, but it's hit on 3+. It's aggressive. And it's
for how many points though?
7.
Okay, so the here Wesps are how much again?
9. So it's a 2-point discount to make them aggressive, but
yeah, so,
they are only
9 points for 3 guns that are self-propelled and a 3+ firepower is really good.
Yeah, and the fearless.
Better.
And the fearless as well. That's something that's gotten me out a lot of scrapes. You know, planes coming in, MGing them, 5 centimeters coming in from the side, or 37 millimeters coming in from the side, getting the awkward save, and they fail the firepower.
So I think that Wesp are a competitor with the U.S. Priests for one of the best artillery units in the game.
And
but
they're awkward.
What the U.S. Priests have over them
time on target.
Is time on target, yeah.
Because the other thing with the Wesps is, because they are a Panzer II chassis, or 38T, they're really freaking small as well. They're like half the footprint of a Priest. So you can do some semi-awkward kind of crazy things with them if you really want to, because you can squeeze 3 of them. You can squeeze 3 of them into a space that 2 Priests can fit. So it's very easy to hide these things.
What was their front armor? 1?
1. They're 1-1.
Yeah. The Priests are front armor 3.
So
which I think actually does kind of matter a little bit.
Oh yeah, especially against 50 cals and 5 centimeters.
It makes the Priests less likely to get killed by, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I still think that the U.S. Priests are the best unit in the game, but Wesps are
100%. They are a close contender. The Wesp's older brother is called Hummel. It is the exact same soft stats. Its front armor is 2 instead of 1, but its side armor is still 1. And it's a 15 centimeter howitzer mounted on a Panzer IV chassis. So it's anti-tank 3, firepower 2+ with forward firing, 80-inch range, no smoke though, only has HE. But then the thing that's kind of tempting every single time I look at this thing is it's a 16-inch direct fire with anti-tank 11 auto firepower, with brutal forward firing.
Only 1 shot, right?
Yep. 1 shot and no rate of fire while moving. So it's not even slow firing. You have to be stationary. It's 1 dash. But that auto firepower, I don't know what it is about. I don't know what, like in my monkey brain or whatever it is. That auto firepower just makes it really, really derpy. So then the other option is the grill, which is interesting because it's a 15 centimeter gun, so it's got that 2+ firepower with no smoke. And it's on it's either a 38T or a Panzer II chassis. So it's similar footprint to the Wesp. It's a tiny gun. In Bulge German, you're able to take them as an artillery slot. In all the other books, you can take them as a 2 of in Panzer Grenadier units, or formations. So you can take 4 to 6 of them in a support option. 4 of them is 9 points, and because they are Waffen, they are hit on 3+. So they're aggressive, veteran, fearless. So 9 points gives you +1 firepower with no smoke bombardment and 1 extra vehicle when you're comparing it to the Wesp slot of the 9-point artillery unit.
Yeah, that's another good thing about Germans in general, is they have really flexible formation diagrams, so you can squeeze things like artillery into them.
Oh,
There's
God,
a lot
yeah.
of armored mortars you can.
Yeah.
We don't really need to talk about armored mortars again, because
No.
the German ones are really not that different from the American ones, are they?
No, they aren't. And really, the only thing that you need to know is if it's a Panzer Grenadier platoon, it has it. You have the capability to take some sort of mortars. If you're an armored Panzer Grenadier platoon, they're going to be armored mortars. If you're a regular Panzer Grenadier platoon...
Company, right? You're talking about a company?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, no, not platoon, company. Formation. If you have an armored Panzer Grenadier formation, you can take mortars. So they have in artillery, or in formation artillery.
Yeah, and armored mortars is something that isn't really in any of the British books, although there is something like it now that we'll get to talk about. The Piat battery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be something for later in the video.
Yeah, where it awkwardly plays. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way for me to, like, nip this in the bum, but I don't know if there's a way. So we'll just have to deal with my multitude of tabs open so that I can try and do a little bit of multitasking here to flip between, so the base image is still there.
Well, we'll get to it later anyway.
So the other things, so pulling up a armored Panzer Grenadier formation, you have your mortars. You got your armored mortars, which is just, it's literally an armored mortar. You get 4 of them for 6 points. They're veteran, that's one of the big things with it. Otherwise, it's just literally a 40-inch, 8-centimeter mortar. Every single army has them. If you are a foot slogging company, so let's do the Brigade Panzer Grenadiers, for example, you get regular mortars, and a lot of times you get 12-centimeter mortars. So you get a 3+ firepower mortar in formation. So, kind of interesting. The Brigade companies as well, and the Volksgrenadier companies in Bulge German, they get an in-formation 7.5. It's this weird fusion gun. It can fire as the beefed-up mortar of Anti-Tank 2 firepower 4+, or as a halted 2 moving 1 Anti-Tank 9. Again, this is one of the sad children of V3 that was really good, but Anti-Tank 9 is not what it was in V3, and especially with what is hitting the field now, Anti-Tank 9 is not that much to write home about. It's either not doing anything or killing something that a 5-centimeter or a 50 cal could take care of, or a 37 mil. So let me just...
Can we talk about grills?
Yeah, because the grills also can go... Let me see if I can pull that up real quick here. The grills...
The 2+ firepower, but their range is a little bit limited.
Yeah, it's like a 56... Yeah, it's a 56 range. 56-inch range. Ooh, and I actually didn't realize this. The Bulge German Armored Panzer Grenadiers, they have an option to take 3 of them for 8 points. So that's careful, because it is Wehrmacht here. So they aren't the 3+, but they're able to take 3. All the other books, I'm pretty sure you can only take 2, which is always just kind of a, why would you even bother with that? Because you're re-rolling from the very beginning. And it's usually 4 or 5 points.
So
and there's no smoke.
Yeah, they don't have smoke.
Then I'm trying to think. Oh, one of the other ones. I cannot remember for the life of me if this is in Bagration German or not, or if this was Bulge German. But the Panzerwerfer 42s. It's Nebelwerfers on an armored chassis.
Yeah.
They're neat. They look really cool, but 4 of them is 16 points. Then your other option is 2 for
that's
8.
a lot.
And for a salvo, I mean, they look really freaking cool, don't get me wrong, but it would be difficult for me to get them in a...
What else do we have to talk about for German artillery?
For German artillery, the only thing left is our artillery, not artillery topic. Like, the Sturmtigers, Brumbars, such like that. So, obviously, some of the alternate units are flamethrowers. In Bulge German, you get the Flamehetzer, which, pulling up here, it's a Hetzer with a flamethrower instead of a main gun. And it was errata to have an MG. I want to say that I fought tooth and nail for that because the artwork on the card, on the box, and on the website had an MG on top of the tank, and there was no MG gun line on the vehicle. It just had the flamethrower.
It was a mistake because it did have one in real life.
No, it actually didn't. They took them off. Yeah, they took them off because it was too much for the crew to handle.
Okay.
I
always got the impression that the Hetzer's MG didn't work very well anyway.
Yeah, and that on top of it. But so anyway, they it's a 4-inch range, so not the 6-inch. But then again, the British flamethrowers are insane. But other than that basic flamethrower stat, it's halted for.
I think still the only British flamethrower that actually is 6 inches is the Crocodile one.
I found out the Croc Shermans in Bulge US are 6-inch range too.
Are they? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Badgers have a 6-inch range too.
Okay. The only other artillery that we have for Germans is the Brumbars and the Sturmtigers. So I'll show Brumbars first. They are assault tanks. So they are heavily armored, and they are, I believe the Brumbar's not a howitzer, it's just a big frickin' gun. It's a 15 centimeter snub-nose howitzer put on a Panzer IV chassis, up armored to the frickin' moon. It's front armor 10, side and rear 4. Anti-tank 3, firepower 2+, with a direct fire 1-1 slow firing auto firepower weapon. 2 of them is 14 points, 3 is 21, 4 is 28. Man, I'm apologizing in advance because I cannot remember which breakthrough assault guy it is, but there is one of the breakthrough assault guys has written like 3 articles on why the Brumbars are a sleeper unit in Flames of War. He makes an interesting case.
I don't know. I think it's too many points. What was its AT again?
7. So it's only really good at infantry. But so then the other option is the one that I see as a sleeper, and that's the Sturmtiger. So the Sturmtiger, one of them is 14 points, 2 of them is 28. Their special rule is that they have Brutal, Bunker Killer, which doesn't really do anything meta-wise, forward firing, and a rocket howitzer, where the rocket howitzer means I get 1 die to range in, 1 attempt. And they are veteran, careful, confident, with front armor 15, side and rear 8, and top 2. So I messed up at Dragonfall.
Oh, yeah.
It's front 15, not front 9. So
okay,
you would not have been able to kill that. You could not have popped that, and I would have been able to continue. So insult to injury on my part, but now we know front 15. It ignores. It will even ignore the beefed 17 pounders in Bulge. But now we know. And so the reason why I am not completely throwing this off the cliff, it is anti-tank 4, firepower 2+. There is not many anti-tank 4 guns in Flames of War.
Yeah, the only
for
other
artillery
one I can think of is actually the naval bombardments.
Yeah, and anti-tank 4 is enough to kind of start making medium tanks kind of start getting a little palm sweaty, knees weak kind of deal going.
Yeah, you can take out tank destroyers with it too.
Yeah, and even top armor 1. You know, a 3 is equalizing, a 4 is what you need to ignore. So a 1 or a 2, and then like you said, with tank destroyers,
it's hard to kill it by any means, but
especially knowing that it's front armor 15.
The only issue with it is like it's kind of luck dependent because you only get one attempt.
You only get the one. Yes.
So, and if you're ranging it, which you probably will be, then it's going to be a 4+. There's actually a good chance that it just never ranges in.
Yep. And so my argument with that is, with the 56-inch range, it doesn't have to roll right up to something. You can take your spot wherever it is you want it to be at, pick your target, and you just have to pass that range in once. Then you're hitting a 2+ firepower brutal weapon. So when it ranges in, because that's the other thing with it being brutal.
Then people can move out of the way too, though. Like if it's an anti-tank gun, then yeah, it's probably stuck there. But like, infantry can run into a building nearby, and then it's not like other artillery, where like they can easily range in again on the new spot. The Sturm Tiger can't.
Yeah, so, they would have to re-roll the range in and then
there's good
take
things
that
about it.
one.
Bad things about it. It's not a. It's not an instant take for sure. It's almost more comparable to like aircraft on its impact.
Yeah. So the only other thing I'm gonna say on the Sturm Tiger is the thing that made me kind of start wanting to take it was I stopped thinking of it as an artillery piece. It's firing one shot, so I get one die. I have a 4+ to hit. Like it's a 4+ to hit, and if it hits, it just happens to turn into a template, and then I gotta roll again to see if I actually hit stuff. So very much like you're saying aircraft, it just is a one-of kind of deal where they just gotta get lucky once.
How many points is it again?
14 for one of them.
Yeah.
The only other thing that is massively negative for it as well is depending on what types of games or tournaments you're playing in, that front armor 15 will hit deep reserves. So if you have other battle tank units or aircraft or anything else. Yep, a lot better when you're attacking, and like at Dragonfall, where deep didn't exist for reserve options, which is one of the reasons why I took it.
It's not too common of a thing though.
No. But I believe that is it outside of aircraft.
Alright, so
for the German
before we go
stuff.
On to the Axis allies, where would you put Germans in our like tier list from before?
I would put them just below Americans purely because they're missing time on target. Because their artillery being specialist means it's good enough to do the role well, but cheap enough because it's not able to do everything that you can put other things in your army to deal with it, to deal with other threats. You know, you're not loading up points like the 3 Wesps. They will do everything artillery needs to do for 9 points. That's not that much for artillery.
Yeah, the Wesps are really the unit that you should consider for almost all German forces, honestly.
Yep, and then
no matter what you're trying to do with them.
Yep, and then there's the argument that I could see made for the grills as well, because I've seen some lists where they're doing a double formation.
Yeah, but the grills don't have smoke.
But hey, hold on though, because the ones that I see the arguments for, they're running a double formation to run 2 mortar units. So then they got 2 smoke screens with the mortars, and then the grills. So the mortars are the blocking, and then the grills are the this needs to kill. And the fact too that even like the brigade German stuff, which is the real bad stat line stuff, is they are the reluctant, aggressive, and they are trained. I believe. I'm trying to find our. Oh, whoops! That's Panzer Grenadier Company. And then the other thing that the brigades are able to do is they are able to take 12-centimeter mortars in formation. A unit of 4 of them is 3 points. So you can put 4 of the 12 centimeters in your backline with a 3+ firepower.
Yep.
And so that's another way. But so then, changing gears real quick to the other half, for Axis allies, who are you going to look at first for me, PDF-wise, so that I know who to pull up?
I'm just going to go front of the book to back, so we're going to do Finns, then we're going to do Hungarians, and then Romanians.
Okay, so let me open Finns. Okay, so here's Finns. Swapping my page over for you guys. Okay, so here's the Finns. What are we looking at?
Okay, so all 3. This is going to be pretty short for each of them, because each of the
it's limited.
countries in the book only have like 2 formation or like 2 or 3 formations each. Actually, the Hungarians have like 5 or 6, but
the Romanians do too, but they're in the command cards. The Romanians have like 4 or 5 command card formations they can put on the field.
The only one that I have the command cards for are the Finns, but like the command card packs for this book are also pretty small.
Yeah.
So the 2 borders that Finns have available to them are,
Sorry, that was me just vocally stimming. I wasn't saying anything. Sorry.
The 81 millimeter and 120 millimeter mortars,
which just look like standard mortars.
Yeah, they're like the German ones. They're there's nothing really to say about them. They come in units of 3. You can get 3 mortars, 3 81s for 3 points, or also the 120s are 6 points for 3 or 4 points for 2.
And the 120s have smoke. Other nations 12 centimeters. Other nations 120s. German and Soviet 120s don't have smoke.
Yeah. They do have a 4+ save though, which that's normal for 120 millimeter mortars. It's just kind of a downside to them. They're confident veteran, which is pretty good stats for mortars to have. Yeah, I think they're pretty efficient.
Yeah.
The only thing with the 120 millimeter mortars and the 81s, I guess, is like you can only get them in infantry formations. The regular infantry company can take 1 of each, and then the light infantry company and the command cards can only take the 81 millimeters.
Alright, yeah, and I just pulled up the T-26 and no mortars, and the Sturmy literally is Sturmies.
Yeah.
There's nothing else in the Sturmy company. But anyway, so that's formation artillery. What support artillery do you have?
Okay, I think, well,
Looks
we've
like
got
4?
BT-42s, and then there's 76 millimeter and 105. Those are the 3 artillery units they get.
The captured ISU does not have a bombardment line.
Doesn't get a bombardment.
It's just also straight.
It's also hit on 3+. That thing's a topic on its own, but different because
besides,
it doesn't have artillery.
Yes. But so the BT-42s.
Yeah, I think this is actually the best one they have. So they're only 10 points for 3 of them, which is pretty
solid.
Good.
Yeah.
And so keep that in mind compared to like the other units we've looked at, like the 8-point U.S. priests and the West, which we're hovering around like 7 to 9.
Yeah, 7 to 9 depending.
Yeah, like the careful West would be 9 points.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have a veteran skill, and they're top armor 1, so it's actually hard to suppress them.
Via artillery.
Yeah, hard for enemy artillery to like bail them out and kill them.
Because even 10-5s with 3, you're throwing a 2 and you're equalized. You're just fishing for a 1.
Yeah. So top armor 1 is a pretty good thing to have, and most other units in this game from other countries that have top armor 1 and can fire artillery are really expensive, because they'll also have like other good armor ratings. We're talking about things like the Stews, like the Stug Age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ISUs.
Sherman 105s, things like that. They get really expensive. It's a lot of points. But the BT-42, it's a 3+ firepower, and it can fire smoke. Its only issue is it has a 48-inch range, which is not that long.
It's
so
mortar.
Kind of have,
it's mortars.
You may have to expose yourself to direct fire coming back at you.
Yeah, and it does only have front 2 and side 1, but that's playing into the keeping the points down. With it only being 10 points, that you just make it so that they aren't necessarily sticking themselves out to get hit.
Yeah. So then the other 2 options you have are the 76 millimeter artillery and the 105s. The 76s are the same ones as the Soviet artillery, but the Finnish ones can fire smoke. I think this is a decent option. It's just that it has a 4+ firepower.
Runs into the 25-pounder problem.
9 points for 4 of them, which makes them still better than 25-pounders.
Yeah.
And they have an anti-tank 8 direct fire option that is actually halted too. So
they can defend against armored cars.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how this unit like outclasses 25-pounders in so many ways.
And it's what? And it's 6 points less?
5 points less.
5 points less?
14 points, yeah. The one thing that British artillery have, though, is they're fearless. The Finnish ones are only confident in late war.
Alright.
Yeah.
Then you had one
yeah, the
other
105's same as the German gun. There's really not a huge difference. 13 points for 4 of them. Confident veteran. How did that compare to the cost of the German ones again?
13 points for them, and I believe the Germans are 14. I think it's a 1 point difference.
So they're a bit cheaper.
Yeah, I can check that really quick here thanks to the power of the internet. Yep, 14 points.
Yeah, and then like artillery observers are a topic.
Yeah, you can take infantry.
Yeah, they could take an infantry observer, which makes it a lot harder to kill.
Yeah.
Because they can just be dug in. Less mobile, though, if you want to reposition your observer. And the tricky thing is, though, that in order to take the artillery observation post, you have to take one of the towed guns. You can't take it with the BT-42.
Yeah, or mortars. Because that's what I'm looking at here.
Yeah, you can easily get the 105 or the 76 and the artillery OP, and then take the BT-42s and let it observe for both of them. But that's a lot of points.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it for the Finns.
Then Hungarians next, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if they have any information artillery, except they've got to have infantry mortars. Oh wait, hold on, Zrini's. We got to talk about Zrini's.
Well, we can hit the rifle company really quickly. They have an 81mm mortar and a 120mm mortar. 120 can fire a smoke bombardment. Otherwise, it's literally just an 81 and a 120. What we've covered probably 4 or 5 times already.
They get them in units of 4, though.
Yeah, so they're able to take one.
With a bit more expensive.
But the Zinris.
Yeah.
Zrinis.
Zrini. I think it's Zrini. These are actually one of the best assault guns in the game.
Mm-hmm.
They're really well armored, and they have a unique ability that pretty much nothing else has, which is a halted rate of fire 2 and the brutal special rule with the 2+ firepower. Every other assault gun in the game is slow firing, and it only gets 1 shot halted. I still keep wondering if this was a mistake, or if it's representing some historical part of this that I don't know. But, like, there's literally no other gun in the game that has a halted 2 and slow firing. Everything else that says that is overworked.
Yeah. I mean, you know how much I love this game, but there are plenty of instances where mistakes have been made on various items, so I would not put it past them, especially with how often, putting it eloquently.
I think this one would have been errata by now if it was a mistake, so it's probably not.
Back to my old bit on how long it took them to errata 1/16th.
Yeah. But
anyway, neither here nor there. We can go off on that forever.
So direct firing at things, you can actually take out anti-tank guns really easily that way.
Yeah,
and a good artillery bombardment. 16 points for 3 is a lot, but they're really good.
Yeah, and you're able to take a fair amount of them, and you have multiple options as well in the formation. You know, it's not like the Sturmies that were just Sturmies. Yeah, so you can do that and have that hide back, or you could even take Hetzers or something to try and discount your points as well, so you're not having to play as many. But
it's
so
a good
that's
thing to take the black box support unit. And then their like divisional support, they have we're talking about 105s again. Theirs are trained, and they're 12 points for 4.
Yeah.
So 1 less point than the finished ones, but they're only trained. I really don't think that's that great.
Yeah, two less points than the German ones.
They're really not that impressive in my opinion. But they can also get the 100mm artillery, which is something the Romanians have too.
And that's what, 11?
And that's just it's basically the same artillery bombardment. It's a
2+ firepower. It's a 2+ firepower, which is better than the 10.5.
Yeah, and it gets 11 points. Huh? No. The 100mm is still a 3+. The direct fire is 2+.
I'm looking on forces, and the 100mm is showing as a 2+.
For the artillery bombardment?
Yep, for the artillery bombardment.
That's wrong.
Alright, well that will be something to contact forces over.
Yeah. That literally has to be wrong. That makes
no
sense.
So is now our next thing we're going to be doing with the podcast is just going line item by line item, making sure the poor bastard that it does this by himself actually has everything transferred properly?
I don't know.
No, that's Gary. I think that's your name, Gary. If you're listening, you are a saint for doing this. Gary, Greg. Yeah. I think it's something with a G. But you are a godsend. You are doing God's work for us war gamers.
Yeah. They have. Hungarians have the 150mm rockets, which I think are naval workers, literally.
Yeah, 15 centimeter. They got smoke.
Yeah, they have smoke.
Yeah.
16 points for 6 or 3 for 8.
So one point off for being trained.
Yeah, I think as far as Hungarian artillery goes, I honestly don't think it's that great except for the Zrini's. I'd rather pay 1 more point to be veteran.
Yeah, definitely, because then that can make it so that you could run into an instance where needing that 5 to range in on terrain, you just roll your 3 dice and you throw 3 4s.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, ranging in easier is one of the best things you can have for artillery, so... and then, for an observer, they have a Toldi, which is a light tank. It's not bad.
Yeah, and it's, what, 2 points? Well, it's only 1 point.
It's
okay.
1 point. It's 1 point.
Oh, yeah, because it's only got an MG. But speaking of poor stats, going over to Romanians as a segue...
Yeah.
Their special... Their special rule is called Peasant Army. If you notice on the card here, for motivation and trained, there are 2 skill lines. Or 2 stat lines. Before the game begins, you roll a dice for every single unit with those boxes, and on a roll of a 5 or a 6, Command has blessed you with the better equipped and the better trained troops, so you get to use the higher stat line. On a 1, 2, 3, or 4, they're just peasants that had guns thrown at them.
Yeah.
So, I already have the 75mm pulled up right now, so I'll cover that one real quick. It literally just looks like a shorter range version of the Soviet one. You know, a little bit worse anti-tank, but better firepower. 3+. Anti-tank 8, firepower 3.
This is another one of those, like, 4+ firepower artillery units.
Yeah,
it's like
smoke.
At point, you might as well take mortars.
Yeah, smoke bombardments. So one of the things that Romanians do, for a little side tangent, is in a roundabout way, it's a way to get Soviets to have smoke, so that you can either take a allied Romanian infantry company to get smoke, which isn't going to happen as much anymore because of how they command card locked them. Because the way that you would do it previously, before the command cards locked, was you would upgrade them to guards, so then they would just have the exact same stats as the Soviets. But you can only take a base rifle platoon, which is not going to be good. Well, and the guards for the Romanians are careful. They hit on 4s, otherwise it's a 3+.
Well, whether combining Romanians and Soviets is a good strategy or not is like a whole different topic.
Yeah, but this is a roundabout way because that was one of the...
I think they actually have a lot of good stuff. I think Romanians are really slept on.
Oh, incredibly so. But since the Soviets don't have smoke...
And actually talking about their artillery is a good subject as far as that goes, because the artillery units that they have actually look pretty good. It's 8 points for the 75s that we were just talking about, and it's
Mhm.
also 8 points
8 points for the
100
hundreds.
millimeters. The 100 millimeter one is, I think, a really good one to go with. It's the same gun that we were talking about with the Hungarians.
Yeah. But this one's marked as firepower 3+.
Yeah, so this one's correct. It is 3+. Oh, actually, their 100 millimeters don't have smoke.
And the 100 millimeters on here say smoke. Like I said, it's
one had smoke, didn't it?
Yes. So
I'm
writing
guessing-
that down.
I'm looking at the book. The
I'm
book is
assuming that
probably-
the book is right, but yeah, like I said, it is literally it's one poor bastard doing all of this programming for them.
Yeah, we'll have to look at Lessons for the Front later, because if the book is wrong, they might have
Changed it.
Yeah.
And then one of the other things to kind of mention, like in your terms of how Romanians are slept on, their skill, if you pass the peasant role at the beginning of the game, they become veterans.
Yeah.
So if you throw a 5 or a 6, they're a veteran. And
So you get a veteran artillery unit for 8 points.
And to be completely honest, having played so many Soviets, trained isn't that bad, especially when you have a smoke bombardment. Because I'm able to use 5+ skill in Team Yankee with a range in by using the smoke. Where I'll use the smoke as a way to get the range marker in on the target if it's difficult.
Yeah, that requires a lot of planning, though.
Yeah. But that's just me being used to it, and that's just how I have to look at it.
Out of the smoke, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, you never add a modifier for ranging in on terrain with smoke bombardments.
Yeah.
So that's why he would do it that way.
Yep.
So
So
that's Axis allies.
and then the closing real quick on the Romanians, they have the infantry observer. They have the infantry observer, not an armored observer, so a little interesting thing there. And then their motorized rifle company, they got 81 millimeter mortars and 120 millimeter mortars as well. So pretty standardized for what we've been seeing with rifle companies. However, these 120s don't have smoke. It's just the 81s that have the smoke. And these are definitely good. 3 of them are 4 points. But the downside to it, if this is correct, because it's looking like there's a couple things on Romanians that isn't looking quite right, it looks like that their peasant army, the only upgrade that happens on the motorized 81s is that their last stand goes to a 4+. It looks like their motivation...
I think the same thing.
Okay, so kind of a little on that bit, so they're still trained, but again, kind of like I was saying, trained isn't... It's obviously better to be veteran, duh, it's going to be better to have better stats, but it's not an game-ending thing. It's just something you have to take into account when you're playing, when you're making your plan of, I need to be able to hit this, being able to cheese a smoke bombardment to try and multitask it to get a blocking line while advancing and getting a ranged in marker on it is one of the ways to do that. But like you were saying though, that's Axis allies. That's all the Axis smoke option or artillery options. Romanians are an awkward one because they can be allied with Soviets or Germans, because once enough of Romania got taken over, they just kind of went over and waved at Stalin and started marching behind the Red Army.
Yeah, they switched sides.
They went through, yeah. Which, I mean, okay, I used to kind of make fun of that years ago in this roundabout way of like, oh, you're giving up to the invader, and it's like, getting a little older and a little bit more level-headed, I'm like, okay, you know what, if I had something like the Red Army coming through my backyard, I'd be, hey, thank you for freeing us. Yeah, you know, it's, you're in a situation where you gotta keep your mouth shut. So transitioning over here for our last 10 minutes that we'll be able to walk us through. Hit us with the Bulge British artillery.
Okay, so some of the units that were in earlier books are the same. but most notably, the 25-pounders haven't changed whatsoever. They're still 14 points. It's just kind of sad how the artillery piece that the British used the most in real life is just garbage in this game. The priests are the same as they were in D-Day British. The new things, though, are sextons cost 2 points less now. I think all the stats are the same.
They're only front one.
And, yeah. They were only front one before.
Oh, I had 3 in my head because I was thinking priest chassis for some reason.
Nope.
But they do have Mike Target, but it's a 25-pounder. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Land mattresses. I think these are okay actually. It's 8 points for 2 of them, or 16 points for 4 of them. They have a rule called saturation bombardment, which is a thing that a bunch of British things have in Bold British now, which just means that each gun that fires an artillery bombardment counts as 2. So if you have 2 of them, that's the same as firing 4 guns. If you have 4 of them, it's the same as firing 8, which is the same as 6, because that's as much as you can get.
That's not bad. I haven't encountered that in Flames. There's a couple of units in Yankee that have that. Some of the MLRS ROM.
It's a new thing in Flames.
In Flames. Okay.
Does it. 4+ firepower, AT2, salvo, 64-inch range.
So a beefed mortar.
Yeah, I think compared to the Nebelwerfers, I think the Nebelwerfers are better.
Yeah.
They are fearless though.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
so
you are only sitting.
Land mattresses.
But there is one big thing in comparison for the land mattresses versus the Nebelwerfers. Doing minimum strength units, you lose 1 stand on the land mattresses. You're on last stands.
Yeah.
It's a minimum 2, whereas the Nebs are 3. So the Nebs take 1, and they're still in good spirits.
Also, the Nebelwerfers. Oh yeah, it is a unit of 3. So if you lost 1, then you'd be down to rerolling hits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although I guess you could also say that like the having less guns but the same bombardment is good, because if someone else tries to bombard you, they get to roll less dice to try to get hits.
Yeah, true. And if you're firing as 4 guns, it doesn't matter. Okay,
yeah,
so those are the
land mattresses are okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's also in the Guard Sherman formation, you can take tulips, which is just like they mounted.
Oh, those are the fat rockets.
Yeah. Besides the turret, I think they're actually the same rocket that the aircraft use. But yeah, it gives you a 1-use bombardment. It's a saturation bombardment, just like the same rule.
Yeah, so each one counts as 2 guns.
Firepower, actually.
28 range ain't that too shabby either. You can sit right outside of infantry, right outside of long range too.
Yeah, I wouldn't rely on it. Just like if you do take the Guard Sherman formation, I would take tulips though. They're only 1 point.
Yeah, it's one of those things that if you're doing it, you might as well. Yeah, something with Piats and universal carriers.
Yeah, I think this is the real gem. This is the best thing that they have
What's the card called?
It's called Piat Battery Section.
Trying to find it, Kangaroo Lucky, because there's...
Do you want me to start talking about it?
Start talking about it while I try and find it to bring it up.
So, it's for universal carrier patrols, which are really easy to get for British. It's 1 point. It replaces all of their other weapons. And you get a rear-firing artillery bombardment that only has a 16-inch range. It's only anti-tank 1, but it has a 4+ firepower, and it has saturation bombardment. So, in essence, you're paying 2 points for the carriers, 1 point for that card. So for 3 points, you're getting pretty similar to 6 mortars firing. So you get
that's not bad. That range is
also
rough.
Also because like it's rear firing and carriers are only side and rear 0.
Ooh,
So you would
yeah.
actually sit in range of infantry that can shoot at you and can actually hurt you. But I
Oh, I
don't
didn't even think of
necessarily-
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that breaks them though, because like, you can take several of these units for not that many points. You can take 2 or 3 units, and it would still only be 6 to 9 points. And
Yeah.
in like a couple turns of shooting, you'd be able to kill like a lot of infantry and AT guns.
The only other thing I'm seeing here is they lose all other weapons.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, I mean, you have no MGs on them. You don't have a direct fire thing, so those can get assaulted
Yeah,
with
so
no
you
defensive
have
fire.
to support them with other things.
Yeah.
So I think this falls into the category of sort of like the Avries is like an alternative to artillery.
Yeah.
Because it not having range means you can't use it in exactly the same way, and it doesn't have smoke or anything like that.
And it is only a 4+ firepower too. It's not a 3. But
Yeah.
that saturation battery is very good.
Yeah, again,
terms of
it's
that.
really similar to having like 6 mortars. And remember that like in rifle companies there's 4 slots for carriers. In motor companies I think there's 3.
There's a lot of carriers.
Yeah,
You can
and then, like,
feasibly,
ones are, like 6.
yeah, feasibly you can upgrade 1 or 2 and still have carriers running around with 50 cals and regular Piats.
Oh yeah. Actually though they kind of ruined the 50 cal card.
It's not the same.
It's 1 point. Yeah, that's what I thought too. It's 1 point for to replace one of them. MG with 50 cal, which sucks now. I guess Battlefront has decided that a 50 cal is worth a point for some reason. I don't get it.
Oh wow, and you can only do 1, 2, so you can't even do like
Yeah.
all 3. You can't even do, because like in Team Yankee, some of the missile systems, or the ATGMs, it's like for +1 point per team in this unit, they gain this stat line. This one, you can't even do that anymore. It just
Okay,
one of them gets a 50
we've only got
cal.
a couple minutes left, so just to mop up a few of the things I didn't mention.
Yeah,
There's Matador armored cars, which I don't know if you know about this.
yeah,
You get a Daimler with a 75mm gun. It is actually like AT-10 vaulted 2 and all that.
yeah.
And it has an artillery bombardment, 48-inch range, firepower 4+. It would be 6 points for 3 of them.
Which is not that bad if you're looking at spamming out armored cars.
Yeah, and they're front 3 like the Staghounds are.
Yeah,
The only thing is that you can only take them with the Daimler armored cars.
yeah. So not
which
the
is
Wreck A.
not the one that has the carriers in it.
Yep. Yeah,
There's a couple other ones you can take it, but yeah, that one's really limited. So yeah, I think for Bulge British, you may mostly want to run the Piat batteries, land mattresses, Avries, crocodiles.
yeah. It added in niche options for what was missing.
So, do you think that British artillery is a little bit better with these things?
It's a little better, but I still think they're bad because you don't have a good baseline.
Yeah.
For metaphor's sake, you got a tray, a sausage and cheese tray, with no crackers.
Yeah. And it's like you have to take the right formation to get them to, like, you still can't squeeze these into any of the
Very, very much a checklist of I need this to get this and this to get this.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, with how the Averys work, you almost don't need it. But then that makes it so that you're only able to play a certain way too, though.
Yeah, it's hard to get smoke then too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I think Bulge British is better than Bagration Soviet for artillery. Well, the Soviet stuff is still really cheap.
Yeah, and the Soviet stuff is still kind of out the door as well because the Soviets are now in the spot that the British were a couple months ago, where we're waiting on our last book.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going to come with our last book. We might get like some guards assault infantry battalion that gets smoke with their 81mm mortars because they used the crap out of smoke because it was the best way to shield in advance.
Yeah. So that's Bulge British artillery.
Still bad, but not as bad.
Yeah.
And it is important to note as well.
It gets so outshined by like American options and like German ones.
Yeah, but it is important to note as well, in my opinion, that even though the British have the quote-unquote worst artillery options, I still think they're the best army in the game. Where we stand right now, competitive playing field, I think the British are top. Americans and Germans fight for second, and Soviets are just kind of dancing around with the Bagration allies.
Yeah. We could get into a debate about that. I think Germans are still the best.
Your support diagram. It's kind of that conversation we had previously where one of the problems with the British is you're playing the support diagram, you're not playing the formations.
Yeah.
So, but your Averys, your M10s, your Daimlers, your Daimler Recce units, you know, so just because we are shitting on British artillery, that does not mean they are bad.
Yeah.
Not in the slightest.
I think the biggest thing that you should take home from this is that British artillery is pretty bad, but they have alternatives to artillery that actually works really well.
You got to think outside the box with them. You got to figure out what it is.
Don't just take 25-pounders or priests.
Go for your solution and work backwards. I'm looking at taking out Duggan infantry. How am I playing the game? Are Averys going to be better for fulfilling that role? Are Crocs going to be better for fulfilling that role? You know, so it's a little bit more thought in a roundabout way. You're building a box. You're basically building a box with a hammer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How much time do we have left?
We're pretty much wrapping up near the end here. We're at the top of the hour.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll close this out then. That's Well, since you're on camera, you gotta show your Tia-Boo. You gotta show your Tia-Boo there. No, not that. Not just a cup of tea. You have a fucking teapot on your desk.
Yes,
you have a whole ass teapot. You have a whole ass teapot on your desk.
I am method acting.
You Tia-Boo.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you, everybody.
Britannia.
Oh, real quick closing. One of these days I'll get it so that it's just quick, easy, and not as painful as it sounds. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Greatly appreciate you. If you want to be able to see the footage and see that wonderful teapot, and possibly in the future see one of his other, what was that, 5 teapots?
No, I only have 2.
You only have the 2 walls? And possibly, they're the same. Sad. Oh well. Yeah. But if you want to be able to see Danny's teapot, be sure to check out my Patreon. $1 is the lowest tier that I have set. So $1 a month will get you access to these videos so that you can see our faces and see that lovely teapot that Danny's showing off to the camera right now. And in addition, with my improvements in editing, being able to better display the unit information that we're talking about. So if you want more of that, check out my Patreon. As always as well, huge shout out and thank you to Gamers Revolt for sponsoring the podcast. You know, you're making it so that we're able to do this as much as we can, and with me figuring out how to do this whole setup is going to make it so it can happen a lot more, because then we're not having to coordinate schedules to get people at my house in my little recording studio, loosely using that word, that I have set up. So we're probably going to be able to make this almost a bi-weekly thing with this, if we just manage to take an hour or 2 out of a night to record, and then it's just going to be me putting stuff out, making it so that I'm able to edit it quick, which I was amazed getting all this figured out. It will be pretty easy. But anyway, huge thank you guys. Looking forward to the next one. I believe our next episode is going to be another 2-part episode, but I'm going to have a different guest on each episode, because we're going to be going over Flames of War at Dragonfall 2 weekends ago, and then Team Yankee at Dragonfall a few weekends back. So there was a big charity convention up in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, that myself and a lot of the Thunderbolts, Danny included, went up to and played in. and we actually had members place in the top 3 each event. So it was neat. It was a fun weekend. It was a massive learning experience for me. I lost the worst possible game I've probably ever lost. So I will be doing a full breakdown of that game as well, probably solo, so I don't have to drag anyone else into it. Not bitching and moaning, but in just how much of an scalpel perfection maneuver that it was of reading the table and reading me. But that will be for another time. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Have a good night.